Hello, my name is Socrates, and the concepts presented may offend you.
I look at the distinguishing factors in our society, and the difference between what we call our culture is often founded in the perception of what we wear or eat. But the standard based in custom are the practices we call for when there is a cultural development, like carrying firearms in the United States and the First Amendment. Truly in principle, the ability to carry guns came from the ability to overthrow the government in the case that there were misaligned values from the heads of state to the citizen. Where I say, if not the values, then the standards of unity come into question, that if their senators are to uphold federal law, that in being elected through a democratic method, wherein the persons who have the ability to vote are hot only by the man, but the circumstantial consequences of the reformation of the regime. Similarly, that if there were inconsistencies in the education system, the comprehension of the consequences are the factor in said democracy that allowed Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau into office, that if something so simple as the legalization of cannabis were to play a role, but when the voters had realized that they'd dwindle resources from the nation by engaging foreign markets with the cannabis industry. Counterculture becoming custom confuses the perception of the reality that as the authority must come from an engaged member of the community. This as well, that in cases of free speech disputes, such as a journalist who noted that Canada uses casino logic took up and was denounced and thus silenced for his questioning deliberate practices in the Great White North, to ensure there is a specific filter for individuals who would make the candidacy lists, like the lack of social substance to the nation of Canada. That where those who vote are not only allowed to address the risks of false attribution of leadership skills and the performance records of those whom you would force acceptance of bills by your peers, than first defining the state values after the few who channel it themselves through the life of bumping shoulders and meeting a general expectation to which a credential is not only in case mooted, but to apply the diploma would almost prove the substance to the character's argument invalid. As such, the characteristics of a politician are to be of the best feature that a peoples may find, if not acceptable then indeed the vicarious choice, or most specifically through the disruption of cultural development, we allow with the perversion of selection, to which we would say most reasonably that one would be the candidate for their sheer capacity to embody what is in their countrymen. That when recent historical developments relating to factors like social media and the acknowledgement of the economic strife that leadership causes people, where one must say that with a devolving gratuity to which we are binding ourselves to our lineage, that with the removal of the kin from Canadians, we contradict our ancestors in their moral constitutions, that with all respect respectively given by Biden and Trudeau to the Soviet Union, our consistency is deteriorating by the same degree as theirs once did in Russia. Because we create a dependency for the peoples, conditionally socialize and disseminate our deepest desires online, without acknowledging the fact we will never be able to explore when we hold men who deserve no esteem to a position devised for the great. We forget ourselves in our day-to-day, but if we decide to remember, it may not be too late to adapt the history of our peoples to a point where climax holds similar expression to them excelling. Only once we reintegration our roots will we complete ourselves through the opportunity to complete each other as a society. Further questioning custom and as they become convention to the North American peoples, while allowing the public to engage themselves through the endorsement of these silent men, that if the capacity to attain their position came through honest and logical developments politically, their esteem would hold weight in the stature of their bills, their leadership and guidance, or their portrayal of values on the political spectrum. My questions are this. Do you as a peoples accept electoral practices that allow for men who do not prove themselves in their campaign or their capacity to lead us to simply say that because someone gave them the reins and they simply make by? And if I were to see the capacity of another to manage the campaign and leadership, should not he as a single person have the choice in becoming a candidate for the vote on the sheer premise of his capacity? Due all respects to candidacy, build on the concurrence to all understandings of the economic, the political and anthropological scrutinies that develop nations correctly and effectively.
Thanks for listening. Click the like or subscribe buttons to support this channel.